Would you think that people should rush out and get vaccinated as soon as it becomes available, which apparently is not until October?
I think that there is guidance that's developing from CDC, and as far as rushing to go out, I don't think there's any need to rush. However, as the flu vaccine becomes available, as we always recommend on an annual basis, people should get their flu vaccine. Most years we have difficulty in getting people, especially high-risk people, vaccinated, and hence we have a higher than acceptable death rate from the common flu. As this new novel vaccine becomes available, CDC guidance has recommended that it be tiered. That is, high-risk people get the vaccine first, and then those that are healthy and probably are going to do very well with just a flu infection, whether it be H1N1 or the common flu, that they can get in line a little bit later as this vaccine becomes available. It is anticipated that over the season, many people will be able to get the vaccine, but it's not going to all be ready early on in the season, as happened a couple of years ago with the flu vaccine, that everybody panicked and got on long lines. The fact is we don't make it all in one day. It takes months over time, over a flu season, to be made and distributed. But the public has to become more aware that vaccination is one of the most cost-effective ways to protect society.
Right, but I'm sorry.
Let me just hop in here for a second, Larry. I'll just tell you from personal experience. I have 3 young boys, and every one of my friends who have young children as well have been receiving notes from our schools warning us that when our kids go back to school in the fall, we've got to be very, very careful about an outbreak of any fever or things of that nature. I've had close friends, Larry, whose kids have actually had a seizure, and that has led to a diagnosis of the flu. There is a growing concern that there is something behind this that we're not being told, and that's why this is happening. Can you enlighten us on that? What is it?
Well, I think that there's a lot of speculation. We always worry about the things we don't know about. Mr. Finder, one of the reasons why I think that we all need to be paying closer attention is the fact that medical researchers in recent years studying the 1918, 57, and 68 pandemics have determined that they actually come in 3 waves. The first wave, which is just kind of coming to an end, if that's what this one is this year, made a lot of people sick around the world, killed a few people, but not very many. Then it went away for a short period of time, only to come back in the late fall. And that's when, in the second wave, it killed in the United States 500,000 people. I think 90,000 New Yorkers died in the fall of 1918. And then it went away after a couple of months to come back for the third wave in the spring of 1919. And it made a lot of people mildly sick, did not kill very many people at all in that third wave, and then disappeared again. Doctor, is that not your understanding?
It is. You're absolutely right about the 3 waves. I might add here, though, that I think one of the things that we need to be very aware of is the lack of what I would call risk communications. And I know you all are well aware of it. But the fact is we need more communication on a regular basis by, if you will, iconic health leaders that the public trusts. We need to do this prospectively to give guidance to the public as to how to deal with all threats that they may be faced with. Again, where this all hazards terminology that we use, which means any and all threats that may disrupt the community. In this case, it's an emerging infection, it's H1N1, and the possible second wave that could be coming forward. The public is desperate for information. They hear bits and pieces of information through 724 news cycles, but they don't get a lot of leadership stepping forward with clear direction and guidance as to what they should do, the importance of vaccination, and so on. So risk communication becomes a very important part of this so that we calm the fears of our fellow citizens and take the uncertainty out of what may happen in the future.
I want to raise another point, which is interesting. There are 5 companies that make vaccines for the flu. One of them is in the U.S. And the reason that these companies have moved offshore, really, is because of liability. Because basically, and this is, I think, because of we have such a litigious society, that's really slowed down the production of vaccine. No one wants to be responsible. So what I wanted to ask the other guests is, we have just declared immunity for the pharmaceutical manufacturers who are giving us the doses of vaccine. Is that a good thing?
Well, I'll comment just quickly. First, I think that rather than looking at it as a good or bad thing, I know that when I was in office as Surgeon General of the United States, these are challenges we had where we did not have the infrastructure to ramp up, so to speak, to put out enough vaccine for any and all threats, including just the common flu. And so ensuring, the government making sure that they provided appropriate incentives for the private sector to stay in the vaccine business when for many companies it had been a money loser and many had dropped out is very, very important. There was a big debate. Should the government go into the vaccine business itself, or should they stimulate the private sector to do so? So I think we've hit a plan of government oversight with private sector being incentivized. But the bottom line is, rather than look at it, for me, good or bad, is to ensure that we have an adequate infrastructure to protect all of our citizens when and if that challenge arises.
Quickly, Larry, just before we wrap up here, what about corporations? You mentioned earlier they're not taking it seriously enough. What do we do internally in our companies across this country?
Well, we've been telling our clients that there are 4 areas that they need to be thinking about. Negative cash flow, how are they going to operate for 2 months to 6 months with negative cash flow. They've got personnel policies that need to be reviewed and amended. An example, most companies have a policy that says you can be sick a day or 2 and no big deal, but if you're sick more than that, you got to come back with a doctor's note. There's not going to be a doctor's note in a pandemic if it's a bad one. And contracts, there are penalty provisions in all business contracts, including your health insurance contract, and those may have exceptions in them that would allow companies, health insurance companies, not to pay with an act of God. And then the 4th area that we think businesses should be thinking about right now, and they've got literally weeks to do this, is how they're going to communicate what they're doing to their employees, to their vendors and their customers, how they're going to communicate if they have to close down for a period of time, and that's a possibility. I think that everybody should be planning for the worst and hoping that we have a 57 or 68 type pandemic and most people won't even know what happened.
All right, well, Larry, let's hope that's what happens. Dr. Carmona, thank you very much. Joe, thank you as well. All right, coming up,
Thanks.
Orange supplies facing a potential squeeze. What that means for the price of that daily glass of OJ. We'll give you some details of that ahead. And don't forget, Senator Ken Conrad coming up in just a little while. We'll talk about healthcare, co-ops, pandemic flu, all of this. A lot of information. We'll be right back.